All right, welcome to Election Night 2024, where we have Larry Hogan facing off against Gary Chambers. Uh, Both of them are senators starting their terms in 2023, defeating um, defeating the incumbents in both states, and with their vice presidential candidates, Senate Majority Leader Ted Cruz and the legitimate governor of Virginia, Princess Blanding. And so for our first poll closings, we have Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, South Carolina, Virginia, and Vermont. And for Indiana, we can call the race for Larry Hogan. For Kentucky, we can call the race for Larry Hogan. And for South Carolina, the election will be going to Larry Hogan. As for Vermont, this state will be going to Gary Chambers. For Georgia, it's too close to call with 5% reporting. Hogan maintains about a 3.5-point lead. We'll have to see where the state goes from here. In Virginia, 13% is reporting. Larry Hogan takes a big lead. Gary Chambers, vice presidential candidate, is the legitimate governor of this state, so we'll have to see how her popularity plays off in this state. In Florida, it's too close to call, with 28% reporting, with Gary Chambers taking a massive lead at the start. And in the electoral map, we see Gary Chambers with 3 electoral votes and Larry Hogan with 28, with 3 toss-up states. As for the next poll closings at 7:30, we have North Carolina, Ohio, and West Virginia. For West Virginia, we can call the race for Larry Hogan. For Virginia, it's still too close to call, with Larry Hogan taking an 11-point lead with 24% reporting. For Florida, it's getting closer as now Gary Chambers has taken the lead at a 3-point lead. In North Carolina, Gary Chambers has a big lead, 51-43, 38% reporting. In Ohio, Larry Hogan has taken almost a 15-point lead, but only 18% is reporting, so the state could still flip back. And in the electoral map, it's now 32 electoral votes for Larry Hogan and 3 for Gary Chambers, with 5 toss-up states. And now the 8 p.m. poll closings. We have Alabama, Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Kansas, Maine, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, and Washington, D.C. As for Alabama, we can call the race for Larry Hogan. In Kansas, the state of Kansas will be going to Larry Hogan. The state of Mississippi will also be going to Larry Hogan. The state of Missouri will be going to Larry Hogan. The state of Oklahoma will be going to Larry Hogan. The state of South Dakota will be going to Larry Hogan. The state of Tennessee will be going to Larry Hogan. The state of Ohio will be going to Larry Hogan as well. And this was a too close to call state. It is now we have determined that it will be going to Larry Hogan. And Maryland, a flip and a key race, has been won by Larry Hogan. This is not much of a shock. Gary Chambers didn't even touch the state because he knew that he couldn't win it. And as for Maine, Gary Chambers is the projected winner. We were expecting this to be a close race, but it's looking like Gary Chambers is going to pull it off. In Maine's first congressional district, he is the winner. And in Connecticut, he is the projected winner. In Illinois, Gary Chambers wins. Gary Chambers wins Washington, D.C. Gary Chambers wins Massachusetts. Gary Chambers wins New Jersey. Gary Chambers wins Rhode Island. In Georgia, it is still too close to call, with Larry Hogan taking a 6-point lead. In North Carolina, it's still too close to call, with Larry Hogan having a 10-point lead. In Texas, it's too close to call, with Larry Hogan having a pretty solid lead of about 6 points. In Michigan, Gary Chambers has a narrow lead, but only 9% reporting, so this could go anyway. In Pennsylvania, Gary Chambers having a 6-point lead. In New Hampshire, Larry Hogan having a massive lead. In the Maine's second congressional district, Gary Chambers is dominating. And in Delaware, it's extremely close, within 0.2%. Or 0.1%. And then in Virginia, The race is narrowed with Larry Hogan at 50.2% and Gary Chambers at 48.9%. In North Carolina, the projected winner is Larry Hogan, and this is a key race. North Carolina was too close to call, but we have determined that there is no way it will go for Gary Chambers. And in Maine's 2nd Congressional District, we have determined it will be going to Gary Chambers after it being briefly too close to call. And in the electoral map, Gary Chambers has 65 electoral votes to Larry Hogan's 127, with numerous toss-up states appearing across the map. And then for our 8:30 p.m. poll closings, we have Arkansas. In Arkansas, Larry Hogan will be winning. And then in Georgia, it is still too close to call, with the margin being 0.1%. This is getting really close in Georgia. In Florida, Gary Chambers is losing now by 6 points, and it's 65% is reporting. His odds are getting narrower and narrower as time goes on. In New Hampshire, it's still extremely close, within a point with half reporting. In Texas, it's only a 1.5 point, 1.5 point lead for Larry Hogan. In Michigan, it's a 3-point lead for Gary Chambers. And in Pennsylvania, it is a 4-point lead for Gary Chambers. And we can now call the state of Florida for Larry Hogan. There is no way Gary Chambers can really win, unfortunately for him. And this is seeming like a good night for Larry Hogan, winning the state of Florida. And now at the electoral map for 8:30 p.m., Larry Hogan is at 163 electoral votes, while Gary Chambers keeps his 65. And now we've got the 9 p.m. poll closings. We've got Arizona, Colorado, Louisiana, Minnesota, Nebraska, New Mexico, New York, North Dakota, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. And we can call Nebraska for Larry Hogan. North Dakota will be going to Larry Hogan. Wyoming will be going to Larry Hogan. New York will be going to Gary Chambers. Louisiana, which is a big flip and a big key race, but Larry Hogan did not touch the state, just as Gary Chambers did not touch Maryland, so it is not an unexpected flip. In Georgia, it's still an extremely tight race, and we don't really know which way it will go. In Pennsylvania, Gary Chambers is maintaining a 2-point lead. In Wisconsin, Gary Chambers has a 3-point lead. In Minnesota, Gary Chambers is maintaining a 9-point lead, but only 11% reporting. In Colorado, Gary Chambers is maintaining another 9-point lead. In New Mexico, Gary Chambers is maintaining a 7-point lead, but only 4% is reporting. It's very low. In Arizona, Gary Chambers is maintaining a small lead. And we have decided to withdraw our call for New Jersey, as now Larry Hogan is leading in the state. This is extremely surprising, as at the beginning of election night, it was not looking like Larry Hogan could recover in the state of New Jersey. But now he's taken the lead. In Delaware, Larry Hogan's leading by 5 points after it being previously very close. 86% reporting. The options for Gary Chambers are running out. In Virginia, it's still as tight as ever. We don't know who's going to win this at all, even with 72% reporting. In New Hampshire, Larry Hogan has taken a solid lead of 4 points. In Texas, Larry Hogan has taken a solid lead of around 6 points. And Delaware, we can determine, has flipped to Larry Hogan. This is a massive flip, as people expected him to flip Maryland, but they did not know if he could flip Delaware. And on the electoral map, we've got Gary Chambers' 87 electoral votes to Larry Hogan's 177, with plenty of toss-up states that will determine the race. And for poll closings at 10 p.m. EST, we've got Idaho, Iowa, Montana, Nevada, Oregon, and Utah. We can call Idaho for Larry Hogan. We can call Iowa for Larry Hogan. We can call Montana for Larry Hogan. And we can call Utah for Larry Hogan. And we can call Oregon for Gary Chambers. We can call Minnesota for Gary Chambers as well. And Colorado for Gary Chambers, with both of those being too close to call previously. In New Mexico, Gary Chambers has taken the lead. In Texas, Larry Hogan is maintaining a solid lead of 4 points. In Georgia, Gary Chambers has a lead, a very small lead. In Michigan, Gary Chambers is taking around a 3-point lead. In Pennsylvania, Gary Chambers has a 4-point lead. In Wisconsin, Gary Chambers has a 3-point lead. In Arizona, Larry Hogan has a 6-point lead. In Nevada, Gary Chambers has a very slight lead. Or actually, no, that's Larry Hogan. Larry Hogan has a slight lead. In New Jersey, it's still down to the wire within a point. In Virginia, Larry Hogan is barely leading. In New Hampshire, Larry Hogan's leading by 7, and with 92% reporting, it's not looking like Gary Chambers can last much longer, keeping this too close to call. And the state of New Hampshire will be a flip. Larry Hogan is projected to win the race. And at 10 p.m., the electoral votes are 115 to 201. Larry Hogan is now only 70 electoral votes away from a victory. In poll closings at 11 p.m. EST, we've got California, Hawaii, and Washington. We can call California for Gary Chambers. We can call Hawaii for Gary Chambers. And we can call Washington for Gary Chambers. And as for Arizona, it was previously too close to call, and it is a flip from 2020 when Joe Biden won the state just barely, and Larry Hogan is now projected to win the state of Arizona. And in Michigan, it's still too close to call, with Gary Chambers maintaining a 3-point lead. In Georgia, it is still too close to call, with Gary Chambers only having 50% of the vote, but 94% reporting. It's close to having a call, it seems. In Pennsylvania, Gary Chambers maintaining a 0.2 lead. In Wisconsin, Larry Hogan is leading. In Nevada, Larry Hogan is leading. In Virginia, Larry Hogan is also leading. He's taking a bit of a lead. In New Jersey, Larry Hogan has a 0.1% lead at 97% reporting. This is getting completely down to the wire. Who knows who could win New Jersey at this point? In New Mexico, it is very close, but Gary Chambers has been making a lead right now. And Georgia can be called for Gary Chambers. The options for Larry Hogan have run out, and Gary Chambers will be projected the winner of Georgia. And as for the electoral map, Gary Chambers is now at 201, and Larry Hogan at 212, with only one state left to call. It's looking, all that's left is the toss-ups. And as for 12 a.m. EST, Alaska will be closing its polls, and Alaska can be projected to be won by Larry Hogan. And in Virginia, it is still too close to call, with a lead for Larry Hogan. In Michigan, Gary Chambers is maintaining his lead. In Pennsylvania, Gary Chambers is still maintaining his lead. In Wisconsin, Gary Chambers is also still leading. In New Jersey, Larry Hogan is now having a bigger lead than before. It is now 0.5% and 99% reporting. It seems that Gary Chambers may not be able to win the state after we called the state for him just a couple hours ago. In New Mexico, Larry Hogan has taken the lead, shockingly, as Biden won this state by 11 points. In Nevada, Larry Hogan has a slight lead of 0.1%. In Texas, Gary Chambers is leading now at 0.2. Yeah, Gary Chambers is now leading in Texas. In New Jersey, we have called it for Larry Hogan. It will be a flip after voting 16 points for Joe Biden. It will be flipping to Larry Hogan, and even we called it for Gary Chambers, and it has flipped. In Virginia, we can also call that. Virginia will be flipping to Larry Hogan after the victory of Glenn Youngkin in 2021. The Republicans did not know if they could win Virginia on a presidential level, but it seems they can now because Larry Hogan just won the state. In Pennsylvania, the projected winner is Gary Chambers. He will be carrying the state of Pennsylvania. And in the electoral map at 12 a.m. EST, we have 220 electoral votes for Gary Chambers and 242 for Larry Hogan. Larry Hogan now only needs to win a few more states, as he's at 242. In Wisconsin, it is still too close to call, Um, it is still too close to call. Um, and then in New Mexico, it's down to the wire as well. Who knows who could win that? In Michigan, it is extremely close as well, with Gary Chambers only maintaining a 4-point lead at 71% reporting. In Texas, it is also extremely close. Larry Hogan has taken back the lead, is now leading by 2 points. Nevada is also still extremely close, with Larry Hogan only having a 1% lead. And we can call Michigan for Gary Chambers. It seems that Larry Hogan will not be able to win the state tonight. And we can call Wisconsin for Gary Chambers as well. It seems that Larry Hogan has also run out of options in the state. However, Larry Hogan will be winning the state of Texas. This is a big win for Larry Hogan, as his VP is also from Texas, and he certainly helped Larry Hogan win the state. And that means that the presidency has flipped from a Democrat to a Republican. Joe Biden will, with Joe Biden retiring, now Larry Hogan will be the one taking his place with Vice President Ted Cruz. And as we can see on the electoral map, Gary Chambers is at 245 electoral votes, and Larry Hogan is at 282. Now we just have to see how the remaining toss-ups vote. And in New Mexico, it's still extremely close at 89% reporting. And in Nevada, it is extremely close with with Gary Chambers having a slight edge. And we can call Nevada for Larry Hogan. It seems that Larry Hogan has been able to surge in Nevada and has been able to secure the state for himself. And on the electoral map at 2 a.m. EST, we have one toss-up left: the state of New Mexico. And it seems New Mexico has flipped to Larry Hogan. And at 3 a.m., Larry Hogan has won the election with 293 electoral votes to Gary Chambers' 245. And that is the end of election night. We hope you enjoyed the results of the election with Larry Hogan taking office on January 20th, 2025.